Howie, when we last spoke at the NFL's annual meeting, you talked about the transition from free agency into the draft, and then you went and signed and made the trade for Jordan Howard. Take us inside. How'd that deal come together?
Well, these trades sometimes take a period of time to happen. So you show interest in a player, and we had conversations starting at the combine about Jordan. Really, we had inquired about that kind of player when we first acquired Jay. So we had looked for that kind of fit last year, bringing Jay back and having him here. Didn't really necessitate the need to do that, but as we got into the offseason, knowing Jordan, knowing what kind of person he is, knowing his fit for us, and the skill set that he has that balances and complements the skill set of our other backs, it was something we were very interested in doing, and we were fortunate to be able to make a trade with the Bears.
So what is the fit? Describe what he brings to the offense.
Well, he's the third, since he entered the league, he's third in rushing yards in the National Football League over a 3-year period. That's pretty impressive. And he's an impressive person. He's got great work ethic. He's got vision. He runs hard. He can catch the football. I think there's a perception that he can't catch the football, but he can catch the football. And he really fills a role that we look to have every year in this offense. And having somebody who can fit our scheme and also provide that sort of skill set.
How would you kind of sum up, Howie, everything that the Eagles have done in free agency, kind of put it into one neat package for us?
It's a good start. You know, we look at the off season as something that doesn't really end until we play our first game and the opportunity to continue to improve the roster, and then you get another couple of opportunities during the course of the season. But it's got to all come together, and the draft process is a big part of that as well. So we're very excited about the guys that we've added to this roster in trades through free agency, but we're hungry. We're hungry to add more. We're hungry to add more talent. We're hungry to improve the roster.
Do you feel like you go into the draft absolutely not feeling a need at any position?
Well, you know, Dave, you always go into the draft kind of with a wish list, you know, and say, hey, I hope we come out with this. But at the end of the day, what we do is we make sure that we check each other on that and that we're staying true to our process. And that starts with really our draft meetings and making sure that we're really grading players based on their value to the Philadelphia Eagles, their value to the league in terms of what kind of players they become, as opposed to, you know, we need this particular position right now, let's raise this guy up so that he comes through on the draft board.
It's really interesting in a league of change. You've kept the core together 3, 4, even longer years. How has it happened? What's the strategy? And is that kind of the mantra you want to work with in this organization? Yeah,
the strategy is to keep people together, to have continuity. When you have continuity, you can build layers. Look at it like a layer cake. And so if you have this continuity, you're just building on top of it. If you start taking out layers of that cake, you have to start on the foundation, and you got to build it back up. So our goal is to have core Eagles, and we have a lot of them. Our contracts are such that we have a lot of players, a lot of our good players are under contract, are under long-term contracts. And that starts with the draft and drafting guys and then re-signing them before they hit free agency. Sometimes when they go to free agency and making sure you get them back. But we're going to look at every avenue to try to accumulate talent and try to get more of those core Eagles.
We are finally here at the biggest weekend of the off season. What is it like for you? Kind of take us through the, I don't know, minute by minute, hour by hour of it.
It's so fun. You know, that's really what it is. The season itself, there's adrenaline, there's excitement, but there's also anxiety. You know, you're going to play a game, there's a winner, there's a loser. We've been fortunate to win a lot more than we've lost the past few years, but in this, you're just adding talent, you're just adding people that you spend the whole year keeping your eye on, evaluating, talking about, and you work that whole year for, in this case, at this moment, you know, 7 picks, 7 chances to take names off that board and call that player and add them to your culture. And then, you know, you got undrafted free agency after the draft as well. But it's just a sense of pride for your staff who've done all this hard work, who've set the table for all of us. And it's fun. It's just a continual fun weekend.
Do you remember when it first started for you? Was there an overwhelming feeling of everything that goes on around making the picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 parts of it. There's first getting into the National Football League, and they put me on the phones to New York, and that was kind of my first experience, my first draft in a draft room, and that was a long time ago. And just kind of going through that, I remember worrying about misspelling the name or getting the position wrong as we did that. And then there's the excitement now of just, at the end of the day, calling that same phone line and making sure that they get the name right. And, the minute that we're ready to put that pick in and saying, let's dunk it and let's go. And looking at the reaction and watching the TV and knowing that guy's a Philadelphia Eagle.
So way back when, Andy Reid had you write down the name, pick up the phone, and call into the league and say, we're going to draft XYZ player?
Yeah, and he'd say, Roseman, don't blow it. A lot of Rosemans don't blow it. And he continued to say that as I did my first draft as a GM in 2010. And, I think that it at every level in that room, there's excitement, there's energy. And when you get close to the pick, when you're about 3 or 4 away, you start getting kind of those moments. It's like game time. And you have your list and you kind of knock it out in order and the phone starts ringing and I think we do a great job of over the next period of time of going through all those scenarios so that we're not going, hey, we didn't anticipate this, what will we do here? And knowing that, hey, we're at 32, we have an opportunity to get a next year 2, move into the middle of the second round. These are the number of players that we thought would be there, some of who would be players that were in discussion at 32. Let's do this, let's pick up another 2. This is the game plan we had.
The other part of it, that romantic idea, is that you're on the phone constantly, this team, that team, hearing all these conversations, potentially making all these deals. True or false? Is it that kind of franticness?
A lot of the conversations are happening right now.
Okay.
These are conversations you're trying to touch base with every team and say, are you anticipating moving out of that pick? Do you want to move back? Do you want to move forward? And continuing some of that dialogue with teams to say, yeah, we anticipate wanting to get back into the first round. We anticipate wanting to move out of our pick in the middle of the first round and coming back towards the end of the first round. And continuing those discussions so you have a framework in place. And I always think about our Fletcher Koch draft where we had these conversations with John Schneider a week before the draft, and I got on the phone with John the night before the draft and said, hey, if our guy's here, this would be the compensation. And John said, let's do it, and just call me when you're a pick or 2 away. They were at pick 12. At pick 10, we started to say, hey, we're on the same page. Our guy's still there. Pick 11, we stay on the phone. Pick 11 goes. Boom, we have a trade.
And it turns out to be one of the great players in Eagles history. Along with that roster continuity, you've kept your personnel staff, for the most part, largely together. You and Joe and Andy and many more. How has that helped you from year to year developing the roster?
Yeah, you start to understand what other people are thinking. It's easy to have difficult conversations, which you need to have. You need to have difficult conversations. Hey, here's a guy that I would really like at 25. Let's go through this guy. I know you're not as high on him as I am. Or the flip side, this would be a great pick for us at 25. Why are you uncomfortable about that pick? What makes you feel strongly about this? Let's watch him together. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about comparable situations where maybe the first year you're feeling out each other. It's like any relationship. And we have that not only with our personnel staff, we have it with a lot of our front office staff. We've been fortunate to add really good people over the last couple of years. Newest one being Andrew Berry. We just have a lot of good people in the building.
Howie, what do you want Eagles fans to know about the state of the team and the direction that the Eagles are taking?
Yeah, first, I'm really proud about the process we've had in place over the last couple of years and the success we've had on the field. It's a great tribute to the people in this organization and to our coaching staff and players. And I think that our fans know this, but we're going to be aggressive. We're going to continue to look at every avenue to improve this football team. We want to win. We want the confetti to fall on our heads again, and we will do whatever it takes to try to do that and ensure that that happens to the extent that we can. By the same token, we're not going to do anything that puts us at such risk so that 2, 3, 4 years from now, we're looking back and saying, hey, the decisions that we made in 2019 cost us 2 years in 21 and 22. So we're always trying to balance those things. It's hard because we desperately want to win right now. We want to win at the highest levels. We want to compete at the highest levels. But that's why we have these processes in place to try to make sure that we're not doing anything that puts us in a position where we're really going to have to sacrifice the future.
Howie, thank you. Good luck in the draft.
Thanks, Dave.